First, I would say, please don't listen to anything that Julie said. She clearly has a very active imagination. No responsibility for that. The first poem I wanted to read, actually, when my mom and I were talking about what we were going to read for today, my mom kept saying, why don't you read about Sunga and the poem that I'd written many years ago when I was tutoring a couple Korean girls, and one of the girls' mothers died, and it was very tragic. So, in honor of Mother's Day, I'm going to read this poem. Sunga learns the names of the days of the week. Sunga's mother is flying to Korea for 7 days to rest. Her last day in America, she turns slowly at the gate, and Sunga waves goodbye. She will not cry as Sung-yan does at night, weeping into the palm of their father's hand. Sunga sees how her mother's eyes have faded, the brown of acorns that have lain on the ground too long, how her skin is lukewarm and the color of weak tea. Her mother's hands, even in sleep, stayed curved and facing up, as if she were carrying boxes still for Sunga's father's store. Sunga learns the names of the days of the week as her mother's plane presses on like a white bird to Korea. Sunday is the day when Mama calls to say she is fine, perfectly, and to speak of the olive-eyed Barbie she will bring on her return. On Monday, Sunga dreams of Barbie's skin, a rich nut brown, and of the streams of ebony hair that she and Sung-yan will brush. In the dream, the doll's slender fingers curve into the hands of her mother, and her skin takes on a new sheen. It is late Tuesday night when grandmother arrives from Korea, and early Wednesday morning she cleans out the store. She empties all the cardboard boxes and stomps on them and shakes Sunga awake from her dreams. Sunga's teacher says today is Woden's day, and Sunga with her crayons draws the one-eyed god of the sky and the two ravens who perch on his shoulders. Sunga hears the velvety flapping, the taffeta wings follow her to her father's store. Sung-yan, who is too young for school, stays in the store all day. On Thursday, they get a letter which grandmother, stomping excitedly, carries in. Sunga's mother is fine, of course. She writes about the house where she was a little girl, in the pond, blue as the sky, blue as an eye, the two swans, and the white feathers left floating in the water. At night, Sunga finds her father asleep in the living room with the lamp left on. Sunga stays home from school on Friday to help with inventory. All day she counts the can of soup and jars of jelly her father sells in his little store. Kneeling at the bottom shelves, Sunga decides she will be a princess and make her mother a queen. They will wear gowns that shine like the moon, and her mother will glide silently, like the moon, across her favorite pond. On Saturday, the 7th day, grandfather calls from Korea. Grandmother screeches into the phone, a terrible sound, and Sunga's father throws his hands up over and over. All day, grandmother is sweeping under the beds, sweeping out the house, and the dust flies up and is left floating in the air. I wanted to read a few poems kind of in honor of my grandmother on my mom's side. I lived with her for 4 years, back, I guess, in my college years, and she passed away in 1996, and someone that obviously we think about all the time and very close to. So I'm just going to read a few poems. One is called Recent. The wind pushes and pushes, unraveling the grass near her feet. The widow recognizes the measure of emptiness, the unmarked plot, the dark fin. She removes the ring. Now sit down, said the doctor. It was a mercy, a blessing. Frank wasn't perfect, crooned the pastor over the wax head, but he would come to this beautiful old church almost every Sunday. The marker arrives and is pushed into the ground. Her first dream. I dreamt he was trying to get rid of me. To get rid of you, he was in a box. Renoir's dancer with the black bands at her throat and wrist. The widow sits quietly in the kitchen, pushing together the puzzle. First, the white border, next, the salmon slippers, the blue eyes, cloud of skirt. This one is called Living with My Grandmother. Where I am living now, we hide dollars in the freezer because you can never tell when we'll be robbed. We do not know who left the kitchen light on or why the hall light is off. Where I am living now, sore feet mean a stroke is coming, stiff sides assure paralysis, sleepiness a coma. My grandmother and I walk into each other all night. One calls out in sleep, the other answers. And if we dream of blood, water, babies, breaking glass, we'll know to be cautious all day. Everything is a sign, and every sign nods its own doom. Let us begin with death. First, a picture falls. And this final one in that series is called At the Lithuanian Festival. With her cane and magnifying glass, my grandmother descends on Hampden's plaza like the head chef. Lithuanian food is always good. Even under the burning sun, the vendors hold so much promise. But already the first dish, potato dumplings, is undercooked, too chewy for my grandmother. And food by food, the festival reveals its failure. Sausage looks too tough, sauerkraut too tender, Zeppelin's gone. But then she eyes eligible Dr. Erlach, if that's truly he, for she has thrust her glass and cane at me. After all, she cannot hold a glass to a man as she can to a food. Dr. Erlach also needs to squint, though he's not nearly so discreet. Who are you? As his left hand takes hers, and his right, still grasping his cane, slides around her shoulder. I watch my grandmother and know what lies behind her ready smile. She likes what she can see. The big man in the Panama hat and bow tie. A doctor is always a great catch. And he feels her soft hand, her sturdy shoulders, the way she looks at him, seeing and not seeing. Behind them, the Lithuanian dancers skip in their dark shoes, the peasant dresses and suits fanning out, then merging easily. How artless courtship appears, as if one could do it with closed eyes. I'm going to read 3 more poems, and this one is my very first year out of college. I taught junior high school in the city, and that had just a very big impact for me. It was a wonderful year, but very difficult in many ways as well. And this has a little bit of a cynical tone. It's called To the New Teacher, and I actually wrote this many years ago, and my memory of it as I was really focused on kind of channeling what the principal would be thinking, and again, somewhat in a cynical tone here. Before that first day, you'll think the school building is devout and robust, that the schoolyard is as a schoolyard should be, circled and sectioned into competent grids, hopscotch, dodgeball, gravel, chickweed, fencing. Inside, of course, the maintenance boys have smoothed the dark halls into neatness and shine. Down with the cockroaches, you'll say, laughing, up with the plaster. But this is a sturdy school. Look at the boiler room, the ovens subdued and resting on their haunches. You'll see that the parish seniors have a room for bingo, that they can feast on crabs in the classrooms, squint fondly at the handwriting charts, squat at those student desks. All that will bring back memories and support. And speaking of feasting, you'll say, isn't that what education is all about? Children, pull back the shell of ignorance. Pick the claws of grammar and learning. Avoid the devil. Ah, but here they come now. You'll say your first morning, these sons of the summer streets, and this is where you'll be speechless, daughters of the night. They'll run into the school, slapping their papers and books against the astounded walls. They're fresh-faced and angry, nameless and fierce. In my eyes and yours, the gridded yard contracts after the bullet of words. The parameters of the classroom will sway, and the capable halls give way. This one is called Divorce. Like a knuckle on which everything is hinged, like a longing that expands into nothing, like the stillness of an evening inside, like a whole summer, like a white moth disappearing in the palm of a hand, like a mold gnawing on a fruit, like a dog waiting at the screen door, like a pinch, like the ashy petals of burned letters, like an African violet forgotten on the sill, like ivy climbing through uncertain soil, like rain, like damp air, like an unlocked door, like sleeping, like dreaming, like falling, like waking. And this last one is kind of channeling my longtime boyfriend, whose adult daughter just recently moved out to California. So it was pretty impactful for both of us, especially for him being his flesh and blood. So I was writing this kind of in his mode. It's called Moving. Just as urgently as the season arrives, it prepares to move away. Sunlight sharpens behind the white oaks. Wood toads with wide smiles that had lined the summer sidewalk begin to burrow humbled into unforgiving mud. Crickets surge desperately through the last of the heavy nights. I had a daughter who was a girl still last June. I loved a girl who loved water, who ran all day until her sneakers were stained green with the musk of fresh-cut grass, who named the earthworm she pulled out from under the wet ivy, who shouted in a wild language. You grew up and moved to another coast, you strange amphibian who took advantage of the passing seasons to wriggle away from me. Whatever else my life was and is, it has to be this breathtaking loss, this falling away of time, this sheltering, this longing, this love.